Can you hear it? I've been trying reenacting this sound, and I lost my voice 2 weeks ago, so I'll be a little bit quiet, and you can push the microphone up a bit. Hello, everyone. It's really nice to be here in a hot summer day with lots of interesting ideas. I'm Ersin. I'm an artist and director of London-based experiential studio called Marshmallow Laser Feast. I know you've been wondering what the hell is that. I hope you will kind of get to an understanding at the end of this talk. But we work in this strange liminal space in London and globally. Creating experiences often revolves around the concept of interbeing, our interconnectedness with the wider family of life. And we work with technology, ecology, and arts in general, and produce work in different forms, different medium. And I'll be kind of showing you a few of those things. We've got a nice breathing meditation in between, so brace for that. And I'll start with the question that made us kind of put into this journey back in 2015 to create a particular line of inquiry, a body of work that we hold quite close to our hearts today. It started with one question. Have you ever wondered what is it like to be a mosquito? So, can't see any hands. Neither did I until 2015, when we got the brief to create an experiential art piece in a forest in Grisdale, up north in England. And we went there for recce and start wondering, I can see the forest through my eyes and feel the smell of it through my nose, and I can hear the sounds through my sensory perception. But how does a mosquito, a dragonfly, a frog, or an owl can experience this? So we decided to experience these realities that are in parallel, although we take the same place, we occupy the same place, these species, our sensory perception is completely different. So through that, imagine being a mosquito and being able to see CO2. That's how they actually experience their surroundings, how they find you in the dark. So if you don't breathe at night, they can't find you. But they also do thermogenesis, so they see the heat, temperature. So stay cool if you don't want to get bitten by them. But then a dragonfly that sees full 360 and the entire spectrum of light, which is quite fascinating. When we start tapping into, this is a frog, when we start tapping into these worlds, a magical new dimension opened up, and we created one of our first multisensory mixed reality installations called In the Eyes of the Animal. Through the experience, you embody sensory perception of 4 different species. While wearing a virtual reality headset in the forest, you become a mosquito or an owl.
Well done, dude. What a show. What a show. Unbelievable. Very clever. Amazing.
You know that?
My partner's partner in crime, and he comes to every show. So through this process, we stumble upon this incredible concept called Umwelt, coined by the pioneering biologist Jacob von Uexküll to describe the unique sensory world of an organism. So your and my reality, perception of reality, is fundamentally differs from the perception of reality of a mosquito or a dragonfly. Every species has its own extraordinary and unknowable sense of reality based on the unique ways their senses translate the world around them. In essence, we are completely different, yet occupy the same space. So, one example was really interesting. These frogs actually cannot see when things move in vertical axis. They can only see. So this incredibly intelligent eyes making a decision and then passing that on to a brain. How would you translate that to an experience? We use something called sub-pack. It's a rumble pack that you wear, and it ripples, kind of feeling the vibrations of riveting of a frog. So being able to embody that species, you've got a frame of reference about reality other than yours. And people wear those strange helmets to communicate what was going on inside, but also enact almost like a theater performance outside in the forest. The other reason we had to kind of waterproof these virtual reality helmets back in the day, so they were protected. This was quite interesting. You know, the only true voyage of discovery is to behold the universe through the eyes of another. Our voyage of discovery into this animal kingdom led us to plant kingdom, and eventually to trees, where miracles appear in every level of magnification. In 2016, we found ourselves standing in front of a giant sequoia tree. Have you ever been or seen a giant sequoia tree? 1, 2, 4, 8, 12. Amazing. These giants are portals through which you leave your human self-importance behind and embody something much larger, much stranger, much more than human. And when we first saw it, all we could think of was, what is it like to be a tree? What is it like to be one of the largest organisms that has ever existed? One that has endured more than 2,500 years. How does it feel to host a vast web of relationships that anchor an entire ecosystem? Now, through the experience, this multisensory mixed reality experience, we can step into this tree. As we peer through the bark, the vascular system of the tree reveals itself. Infinitely complex forms and patterns connects all forms of life into a tapestry of interdependence. Carbon and water, more than 1,000 liters of water a day, flows freely through the phloem and xylem tubes. In virtual reality, you carry it along among the neon green moss and the lichen-covered branches. We shrink in size and sit upon a pine needle. A photon of light hits the surface. Water turns into oxygen, and the life we know it materializes in front of us. This extraordinary journey of water inspired us to create our multisensory mixed reality installation called Tree Hugger, with a team of scientists, LiDAR scanners, programmers, structural engineers, and scent makers. We immerse ourselves in the inner workings of a sequoia to render visible what was otherwise invisible to human eyes. We work with magnificent Myles Lenson, who's a composer and musician, who recorded plant bioelectrical signals to give us a symphony composed in collaboration with the flora. This is quite an interesting quote. When I first saw it, I immediately thought about the overview effect. You know that term, the overview effect, when the astronauts, for the first time, went outside of this planet and looked back and felt this great awe, the unity of life, all encapsulated into a single space, which is this blue dot floating in space. When you stand in front of a giant sequoia tree, you feel this biological overview effect. So our aim was to translate that feeling for a wider audience. We've used LiDAR scanners. These are kind of technical bits of it. It looks like a toaster. It captures a three-dimensional representation of a world. Architects use it very much. And creating a world around the sequoia tree, working with scientists to understand these inner workings, these cardiovascular systems. And it's very much like a human cardiovascular system. A tree that is almost 100 meters tall, that can take 1,200 liters of water a day. I mean, what kind of plumbing is that? It's crazy. So when we contemplate the relationship between our breathing cells and the breathing planet, we encounter this great question. Where does your body end and where does the world begin? As we ask ourselves these questions, I've got a little forest demonstration for you. So pull up your phones, not all of you, but some of you. Make it as loud as possible and click on one of those QR codes corresponding to where you are seated within the auditorium. So we can turn this place into a giant forest sampled from the Amazon rainforest in 2020. Now, I'd like you to close your eyes for a second. We will do a quick breathing meditation together. Imagine being in this forest, covered in life, millions and billions of little things on top of each other, thriving. Inhale slowly and exhale. Inhale, exhale. Feel your tree-like lungs filling and emptying with a rhythmic flow of air. Oxygenated blood reaches your heart. Your heart pumps like murmuration of birds, feeding rivers from the center outwards to touch every cell in your body. Under your skin, you realize you are much like a forest ecosystem. You can slowly open your eyes. Did everyone close their eyes? Check your wallets if they are still there. Every breath you just took, moving 25 billion atoms. These molecules darting faster than sound of light, sound, moving into your lungs. You take somewhere between 17,000 to 30,000 breaths a day. A third of those breaths coming from the forests, and the rest coming from the oceans. You might think you've never met a giant sequoia before, but in fact, you've been enmeshed and entangled with one every moment you've been alive. In other words, we are as much trees as trees are us. This beautiful way of putting, every breath we are offering ourselves to the world at one moment and drawing the world into ourselves at the next. In modern industrial societies, we tend to limit our being to our body, shaped by the confines of your skin. Your body is you, and that's where your you ends. Yet, when we trace our out-breath, the boundary between inside and outside blurs. The air we breathe transcends boundaries, sustaining life as it flows between all beings. It's quite magical. So, our multisensory mixed reality installation called We Live in an Ocean of Air started with this realization. By making our invisible connection with the wider family of life through respiration, it somehow bridges this gap, allowing 12 people to see their own breath, follow it to a giant tree, and become one with it. This project is still traveling around the world, creating different formations, and those ripples finding itself. We borrowed the name from Evangelista Torticelli, who said in 1644, we live submerged at the bottom of an ocean of air, when he first asked the question, what is in the air? And this was the beginning of our first weather system analysis. So when we start asking these questions, we are going deeper. And we are taking this giant sequoia tree to different places, to merge ecologies, to ask these questions even further. And when we look at this giant being, it's a Ceiba pentandra tree. These trees are the emergent trees of the Amazon rainforest. Some of the largest beings alive there. They live somewhere between 100 to 350 years, and they can grow up to 75 meters. They spend half of their year underwater, up to their buttress roots, and the other half in dry season, engaging with different forms of life throughout the year, both dry and wet seasons. These trees are incredible crossroads. It's a spiritual and ecological beacon that consists life. Within a football pitch-like size, which you can see here, it's roughly 100 meters by 75 meters area, you can find an incredible details. I took some notes. 300 species of flowering plants within this space, 200 species of trees, 30 mammal species, 100 species of bird, 25 reptiles, 15 amphibians, 40 different species of butterflies. And one study found in 1 square meter of decomposing soil, there are more than 50 different species of ants, probably hundreds of thousands of them in there. This is just a football pitch size of the Amazon rainforest. And every moment we say deforestation, one of those disappears. Understanding our interconnectedness with the living world is only available through breathing, which you can't stop doing, so we can't stop thinking. I think it's a nice vehicle to feel that connection and act. One interesting driving force behind all the work we do is trying to challenge some of those notions, and one of them is the plant blindness. We often blind to plants. We don't assign the same livelihood to plants because they don't exhibit the same animism as animals do. So how do we overcome this idea? By simply looking at under the hood, maybe speeding time up, like in this example, where you can witness a 100-year episode of a forest within a minute. So the livelihood engraved in your memory. Or in these examples where when you strip the bark off, you can see the cardiovascular of the tree taking somewhere between 900 and 1500 liters of water, taking tremendous amount of carbon, sequestrating and deploying into the soil where it gets distributed through mycelium. This is the lifeblood of the planet that we rely on, and this is how much they look alike. So when you go to a park next time, maybe you can start to imagine how lively they are under their skin. One last breath. When you exhale, it lands on a leaf, opens its pores to drink it in. Carbon travels through the phloem into the branches, down the tree trunk, and all the way down to soil. Here, trees are in ancient cooperation with the kingdom of fungi, fine threads of mycelium, these intelligent, root-like fungal networks that sustain and nurture an entire ecosystem. When we trace our out-breath, we realize the interdependence between major kingdoms of life, all pulsing with one harmonious rhythm. This exploration of rich and diverse life that exists beneath the surface of the soil is the next journey we are embarking on. So excited. The Wood Wide Web will bring us into the primordial relationship between fungi, plants, animals, and trees, and dismantle the myth of human separation from the natural world. As an artist collective, we seek to find emotional resonance in scientific stories, stories that connect us to the more than human world, and combine with emerging technologies, somehow understand and deepen our understanding of what is it like to be something other than human. Modern science is revealing something indigenous knowledge has always held to be true, that what is outside of us is not separate from us. So we need to use our technology to both honor and enhance our intricate relationship with the web of beings. And finally, to do that, one last QR code for you. This is one of my favorites. It's by the amazing Emergence magazines, Chelsea Steinar-Scudder, 10 steps of how to befriend a tree. Just go and befriend a tree and introduce to your friends. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you so much, Ersin. That was absolutely awesome. And congratulations, audience. We are now breathing manually for the rest of the afternoon, so well done for doing that to us. A lot of your stuff is about thinking like a species, right?
Yep.
So what do you think would help people who maybe haven't seen your installations start to think more holistically as humans, as one big, massive organism?
Exactly. That's the whole point. How do we see ourselves part of a huge living, breathing system, which is the case, but somehow down the line of evolution and our industrial revolution, we dropped some of those notions. And it is in our indigenous wisdom, it is there, our great-grandparents knew it, it's just how do we remind ourselves that interconnectedness.
Brilliant. Somebody's put on the chat, how often do you eat at Noah's restaurants? I don't know if you saw the earlier. That's very funny. Excellent. Please, if you do have questions, we have a tiny bit of time to get some of these over to you. Can we just briefly touch on this idea of innovation through play? Because a lot of your work is incredibly influential in its own way. So can we talk a little about the importance of play as part of what you do?
Yeah, I mean, the studio is like a theme park, to be honest. We often bring different ideas and different technologies, start trying to find a new way of conveying something in a sensorial way. And it is in the core of it. Because we are building these real-time systems around these themes, it allows us to create an iterative process of producing these work. So play is the beginning and the end. And it's still, trying to keep that part, because the work itself become animate or, just breaking that dormancy through the play.
Okay. I have another question. It's almost a question that anyone here who is an artist will be familiar with. How frustrated do you get when the technology doesn't quite do what you want it to do? What's the piece of technology that you are waiting for it to be invented?
Gaffer tape.
Gaffer tape.
We put everything together with a gaffer tape. It's often emerging technologies. They break all the time, but that's okay. I think it's part of the process. I'm not expecting everything to work all the time, but allowing that excitement to flourish and bringing seemingly impossible technologies together would allow us to do something that you wouldn't expect otherwise. So it is part of the process, actually.
Yeah, I actually carry a roll of gaffer tape with me everywhere.
I love it, yes.
It's a very special thing to do. I'm glad to meet another one. Okay, I have another question. Your next project? Tell us a little bit more about it. Did you touch on it there, yes. Mycelium,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, the Wood Wide Web, which is the working title, is the project where we explore your last breath. And this notion of death is very strange, and it's a taboo. And not necessarily it's about death either, but when we think about soil, we often imagine it's being the end point. Yet when we consider 90% of the plants that are alive on Earth today rely a cooperation with mycelium that exists on the top 10 centimeters of the Earth's soil. There is enough mycelium to connect each other to go to halfway in our galaxy. This crazy network of being there, how do you experience being part of that mycelium? Your bits and atoms disassembled and reassembled to give new forms of life a beginning. So the experience is going to be about that.
Wow, that's absolutely outstanding. Everybody, please, can we have a huge round of applause for Ersin?